She stared at the elevator doors as they refused to open. The glowing numbers above her head had frozen on floor 7. The soft humming of the machine was gone, and in that suffocating silence, her heart began to pound louder than anything else. She was not alone. Beside her stood the one person she never wanted to be trapped with. Her boss, cold sharp, respected, feared, and now just inches away from her in a box of steel. The air felt thinner with every passing second. She swallowed hard, trying not to look at him. Then his voice broke the silence. Low, calm, and terrifying. If these doors never open again, you need to know what I did. Her stomach dropped. What was he talking about? What could he possibly mean? Imagine that for a second. Put yourself in her shoes, your boss. The man who terrifies you, the man who barely knows your name. Suddenly hinting at a dark secret. Would you want to hear it? Or would you pray for those doors to open right now? But before we reach that confession, you need to know how it all began. She was just another employee, a quiet girl who kept her head down and focused on her work. She was determined to prove herself, to climb the ladder, to survive in a company where competition was brutal, and at the top of it all, her boss. A man people only whispered about. Some said he was ruthless, some said he was heartless, some swore he had ruined careers in a single sentence. But no one dared question him. 2 years she had worked there. 2 years of keeping her distance. 2 years of silence whenever he passed through the office halls. Every time she saw him approaching the elevators, she found an excuse to wait for the next one. Every time she heard his footsteps behind her, she sped up just enough to avoid interaction, but that night, fate had other plans. The office was nearly empty, the hum of computers gone, the cleaners pushing their carts slowly through the quiet halls. She had stayed late again, finishing a report that no one would read with the same care she put into it. Her eyes stung from the screen. Her body ached from the long hours. Finally, she saved the file, shut down her computer, and leaned back in her chair with a tired sigh. It was past 9. She grabbed her bag and headed to the elevator. The doors slid open smoothly. She stepped inside, relieved that the ride down would be quick and silent. But just as the doors began to close, a hand reached through. The doors bounced back, and he stepped in. Her boss' immaculate suit, expression sharp as ever. The faint smell of expensive cologne trailing in after him. He nodded slightly without a word. She stared at the glowing floor numbers, her pulse quickening, the doors closed. The elevator began to move, and for a moment she thought she might escape without a single word being spoken. Then it jerked violently. Her hand flew to the rail as the lights flickered, once, twice. Then darkness except for the faint red emergency glow. The elevator shuddered to a halt. The number froze on floor 7. The hum of the EI motor died. Silence. Her heart leapt into her throat. She pressed the open button. Nothing. She pressed another. Still nothing. She looked at him, calm, unmoving, as though this was a meeting that had simply been rescheduled. He pressed the emergency button. No sound, no signal. He pulled his phone out, checked it, shook his head. No service. That was when it hit her. They were trapped. Her chest tightened. She hated small spaces, she hated silence even more. And now she was locked inside both, with the man who terrified her most. Minutes passed, 5:10. The heat began to build. Her palms were slick with sweat, her throat dry. She shifted uneasily, but the elevator did not move. And then he spoke, his voice breaking the thick silence. Do you ever wonder why people end up in places they never planned to be? She blinked. Was he talking to her, or just thinking aloud? She gave a small nod, and that was when the walls around him began to crack. At first, it was small talk. How long have you been here? What made you take this job? Simple questions, but coming from him, they felt strange, almost personal. Then his voice shifted. Do you think I am as heartless as everyone says? Her breath caught the rumors, the whispers, the warnings. Every single one painted him as cold and untouchable. And now he was asking her to confirm it. She stayed silent, unsure what to say. He let out a short, bitter laugh. They are not wrong. I made myself this way. I chose to be untouchable, because the last time I let someone close, it destroyed me. His words echoed in the tiny space. She wanted to ask what he meant, but her mouth felt dry. The silence grew heavier. 15 minutes passed. Then 30. Her phone showed no signal, no matter how she held it against the wall. Maybe someone will notice, she whispered. He shook his head. People assume technology never fails, but sometimes it does. And when it does, you see who you really are. Trapped, exposed, a chill swept through her. This wasn't about the elevator. This was about him. Half an hour turned into 40 minutes. The air thick, her shirt sticking to her skin. He finally spoke again. I lost my wife 3 years ago. The words landed like stones. Car accident, he said quietly. She was everything, and I was too busy working to answer her call that night. By the time I called back, it was too late. His eyes glistened in the dim red light. So I buried myself in work. I shut everyone out. And when I see you, I see the same thing happening to you. Her breath caught. She had never told anyone about her own nights. The way she drowned herself in work to avoid facing the emptiness of her apartment. The way she smiled politely in the office but broke down in silence at home. The loneliness that ate at her every day. But now the words spilled out by told him everything. The long nights, the empty weekends, the doubts that gnawed at her, the fear that she would vanish, and no one would even notice. Her voice cracked, her eyes burned, and for the first time her boss did not look like a boss. He looked like a man who understood. Put yourself in her place for a moment. The man you feared more than anyone, showing you his wounds, and then listening as you showed him yours. Would you ever look at him the same again? An hour passed. The elevator groaned, under its own weight. She flinched. What if it falls? She whispered. He looked at her calmly. Then we face it together. That sentence stayed with her. Simple but powerful. Like a promise. Another 30 minutes crawled by. He leaned back, eyes half closed. She thought he was asleep until he whispered, "You remind me of her." Her stomach clenched. Of who, she asked? Of my wife? He said, "Not your face, not your voice, but the way you carry everything inside, the way you break silently." That was her, and I could not save her. His voice trembled, and for the first time she saw a crack in the armor he had built for years. That is why I am telling you this now, because if I stay silent one more time, I will lose another person I could have saved. She could hardly breathe. The silence pressed down on her, then she whispered, "Maybe you already saved me." The elevator was still. But inside, something shifted. 90 minutes had passed. Her co-workers were long gone, the city outside alive with lights and noise. But inside, that elevator, it was just two souls stripped bare, and then a knock on the door, voices shouting, "Hello, can you hear us?" Her heart raced. They were found. Finally. But instead of relief, she felt panic, because once those doors opened, this moment would vanish forever. He gave her a faint smile. The first she had ever seen. "No one will ever know what happened in here." She nodded. She believed him. 2 hours after it began, the doors slid open. Bright lights poured in. Hands pulled them out. "Are you all right?" they asked. She nodded automatically, but inside she knew she would never be the same. The next morning she saw him through the glass office. For a brief second their eyes met, and in that glance everything was said. The walls were gone. The silence between Them now carried meaning. They were no longer just boss and employee. They were two survivors of a moment no one else would ever understand. She never repeated what he confessed. He never brought it up again. But something lingered. Meetings were less cold. Her work no longer felt empty. And when the loneliness crept back, she remembered his words. The last time I let someone close, it destroyed me, but letting no one close had destroyed me even more. 2 hours in a stuck elevator had changed everything. And she would never forget it, and maybe neither will you.